Lila had always felt a little different, like a guest in her own home, but she never knew why until that day. She was walking down the hall when she heard voices from the living room. Her stepmother was talking to the neighbor, laughing softly. Lila wasn't trying to listen, but then the words stopped her cold. "Just so you know, we only adopted her out of pity. She's nothing like our real daughter." Lila stood frozen behind the cracked door. Her heart dropped, her ears rang. For a moment, she thought she must have heard it wrong, but then she saw her stepsister nearby, watching her with a small, smug smile. That smile told her everything. It wasn't a mistake. They meant it. Her chest felt tight, like she couldn't breathe. The warmth she used to try and feel in this house. Maybe it had never been real. Later that day, Lila went to her father. She asked him softly if it was true. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He just looked away, not meeting her eyes. That silence cut deeper than any answer. She went to her room and cried into her pillow until her head hurt. She didn't understand how they could pretend for so long, how they could hug her, raise her, and still not love her. That night, something in her changed. She wiped her tears and crept into her father's study. She needed answers. She searched the desk and found a drawer that was locked. Her hands shook as she picked it open with an old hairpin. Inside, she found a thick envelope. Her name was written on it. She opened it slowly. Adoption papers. Her birthday, her name, but no hospital listed, no mother's name, just blanks. Something didn't feel right. There was also a photo, her as a baby, being held by a woman she didn't recognize. Lila stared at it for a long time. That woman looked kind, familiar even. Tears came again, but this time they were different. They came with anger. Everything she believed about her life had just been torn apart, but she wouldn't let them break her. Not now. She didn't know the whole truth yet, but she would find it, and she would never let them hurt her again. Tears had stopped, but the pain was still there. The words she had overheard were impossible to forget. Every moment since then felt heavy. Each smile from her stepmother felt fake now. Each glance from her stepsister felt like a secret joke. Something inside told her she didn't belong here. Not in this house, not with these people. Late one night, with the lights off and the hallway silent, she moved quietly back to the study. Her fingers trembled as she opened the same drawer. This time, she searched even deeper. Beneath the folders she had seen before, there was one more tucked at the bottom. She pulled it out slowly and opened it. 2 birth certificates sat inside. One had her stepsister's name, full and complete. The other had her own. But this one was strange. There was no hospital listed. The space for the mother's name was completely blank. It looked official, but wrong, like someone had tried to hide something. The more she stared at it, the more questions filled her mind. Why was hers missing so much information? Who was her real mother? Why had no one ever told her anything? Something didn't feel right, and for the first time, she started to believe the lie wasn't just in her stepmother's words. It was in the papers too. She needed help, someone who might understand what this meant. When she quietly showed the document to someone older and kind, someone who had known families in the area for a long time, they froze at the last name written on the certificate. Rowe, they whispered. That's not a name you hear every day. That family, they were powerful, rich. There were rumors, a long time ago, a woman named Catherine Rowe vanished. Some say she had a baby who disappeared too. That name echoed in her mind. Catherine Rowe, a missing woman, a missing child. Could it be her? That evening, she searched online for anything about the Rowe family. News articles, old reports, photos. She read them all. One picture stopped her cold. It showed a woman smiling, holding a baby. The woman looked so familiar. Same eyes, same dark hair, same soft smile. Her heart skipped. It felt like looking into a mirror. Everything she'd been told about her past no longer made sense. The truth had been buried deep, but now, small pieces were starting to show. She wasn't just taken in out of pity. She was taken to be hidden, to be forgotten, but she wasn't going to stay forgotten, not anymore. The more Lila searched, the more she started to uncover secrets that had been hidden from her for years. After seeing the name Rowe on her birth certificate and hearing that it belonged to a rich and powerful family, she couldn't stop thinking about it. She spent hours looking through old news articles, public records, and anything she could find online. Slowly, pieces started coming together. She found stories about a woman named Catherine Rowe who had disappeared many years ago. The article said she was a wealthy businesswoman who lived in a large house just outside the city. Some people believed she had gone missing on purpose, while others thought something bad had happened to her. One report mentioned she had a baby daughter, but the baby was never found. Lila's heart pounded as she read those words. She felt in her bones that she was that baby. It made sense. Her blank birth certificate, the missing hospital name, the quiet looks from her father. They had known the truth all along and had kept it from her. She kept digging and soon discovered something even worse. Her stepmother had taken money that didn't belong to her. There were legal documents that showed Lila was supposed to inherit a large amount of money from her birth mother. It had been placed in a trust fund for her, meant to be given when she turned 18, but it was gone, used up, spent. Her trust fund had been stolen. The people who were supposed to care for her had lied. They hadn't adopted her out of kindness. They didn't feel sorry for her. They had taken her in to keep her quiet, to take her money. Her stepmother had used that money to pay for her own daughter's school, an expensive, private academy that Lila could never dream of attending. The truth hurt more than anything else. Everything had been a lie. They treated her like she was unwanted while using the money her real mother had left for her. But now she knew. Now, nothing would stay hidden. They had stolen her past, but they wouldn't steal her future. Lila woke up hoping her birthday might feel special. Maybe, just once, her family would make her feel seen. At breakfast, her stepmother handed her a small box. Inside was an old sweater. It looked used, with a faint perfume smell and a tiny hole near the sleeve. Lila smiled politely and said, "Thank you," even though her chest ached. Later that day, excitement filled the house. Her stepsister ran outside screaming with joy. Parked in the driveway was a brand new car with a shiny red bow. Their father stood proudly by, taking pictures, laughing with his wife. Everyone cheered. No one looked at Lila. She stood near the doorway, holding her second-hand sweater tight around her arms, feeling more invisible than ever. That night, she couldn't sleep. Her chest felt heavy. Her thoughts were loud. The sweater lay on the floor while she sat outside, staring at the sky. The pain from what she'd learned over the past few weeks. The stolen money, the lies, the birth certificate, the name row was too much. She found a bottle of alcohol in the kitchen, opened it, and took a shaky sip. It tasted awful, but it numbed something inside, so she drank more. Her fingers shook as she called a close friend. At first she said nothing, just cried. Then, like a flood, the truth came spilling out. She told everything, how her so-called family had lied, how her mother might be someone named Catherine Rowe, how money meant for her was stolen. Her friend didn't doubt her, she just listened. "I want to find where she lived," Lila said softly. They searched together through websites, an old property record. After a while they found something, a house listed long ago under the name Catherine Rowe, in a small town far away. It looked old, almost forgotten, but still standing. Lila stared at the screen, her breath caught. It felt like a thread connecting her to something real, something that might still be waiting for her. The next morning, her mind was clear. She started making quiet plans. She packed a small bag with a few clothes, tucked away her important papers, and took what little money she had saved. She didn't tell anyone in the house. She moved like a shadow, careful not to be seen. She wasn't running away just to escape. She was running toward the truth, toward a life that had been stolen from her, a life she was ready to take back. The house stood silent at the end of a dirt road, half covered in vines and shadows. Weeds had swallowed the front steps, and the windows looked dusty, like no one had looked out from them in years. Still, the old metal mailbox at the gate held one clear name, Catherine Rowe. The trip had taken hours. She had told her family she was going on a school field trip, packed a small bag, and quietly boarded a bus heading out of state. Her heart had raced the whole ride. Now, standing in front of the forgotten house, her shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth, she felt nervous, but more alive than ever. The front door creaked when she pushed it open. Dust floated in the sunlight, streaming through cracks in the curtains. Old furniture sat exactly where it had been left, like the house had been paused in time. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling corners. It smelled of wood, dust, and something faintly sweet, like faded perfume. Room by room, she explored carefully. Every step felt like a step towards something she'd always been meant to find. In the back of the house, inside a small bedroom with peeling wallpaper, she noticed an old dresser. One drawer wouldn't open. She tugged gently, then harder, until it gave way with a snap. Inside were a few yellowed papers and old photographs. Her hands shook as she picked up one of the photos. It showed a baby in a blue blanket, smiling in the arms of a young woman. The woman's eyes looked just like hers. So did her smile. It was the face from the article, the woman who had vanished. The woman she now believed was her mother. Tucked beneath the photos was a small silver locket on a chain. She held it gently and slipped it into her pocket. Then she saw something else. An envelope, slightly worn, with careful handwriting across the front. It read, "To my daughter, Lila." She didn't open it. Not yet. Her throat felt tight. The letter felt too important to read in a rush. The house had been empty, but not silent. It had whispered pieces of her past she had never known. And now, with the locket close to her heart and the envelope in her hand, she knew this was just the beginning. Fingers trembling, she sat alone in the quiet room, staring at the envelope she had found in the abandoned house. The words on the front, "To my daughter, Lila," felt like a whisper from the past, soft but powerful. She took a deep breath and slowly opened it. Inside was a letter and a folded document. The letter was written in warm, careful handwriting. It spoke of love, hope, and a future they were meant to have together. Tears blurred her vision as she read the final line. "You were always meant to shine, my sweet girl. Never forget who you are." Beneath it was something even more shocking, a legal will. It was dated months before her mother's disappearance. The language was clear and firm. Everything her mother owned, money, properties, businesses, was to go to Lila. No one else was mentioned. She was the sole heir. Heart pounding, she checked the date again. This will was created long before her mother was reported missing, long before she had been placed into the hands of the people who pretended to care. The truth hit hard. Her stepmother had known. Her father had known. They had taken her not out of love, but to keep her quiet and to steal what belonged to her. The next day, with the will safely hidden in her backpack, she made her way to a small legal office in town. The lawyer, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, listened patiently as Lila explained everything, how she had found the will, who she believed her mother was, and the years of lies she had lived under. The lawyer read the document carefully, then looked up, serious. "This is real," she said quietly, "and it changes everything." Lila asked what it meant, what she could do. The lawyer leaned forward. "If this will is valid, and it looks like it is, you are the legal heir. But there's something else. If your stepmother had access to this house, to this will, and chose not to file it, that could be serious, very serious." "Why wouldn't she file it?" Lila asked, even though she already knew. "Because if she had, you would have had everything, and she would have had nothing." The lawyer agreed to help her, but it had to be done carefully, quietly. If the stepmother found out too soon, she could try to destroy what little evidence remained. As she walked out of the office, the will tucked safely away, she felt a strange calm. For the first time, the truth was on her side. The lies were beginning to crack. They had stolen her life, but they hadn't erased it completely. Now, she was taking it back, piece by piece. She walked back into the house like nothing had changed. Her steps felt steady, her face calm. No one noticed the fire burning quietly behind her eyes. They thought she was still the same girl, weak, silent, easy to control. But she wasn't, not anymore. She smiled when her stepmother asked about the school trip, said it was fine, boring even. Her stepsister rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. They didn't ask questions. They didn't know she had been to the house, that she had found the will, that the truth was now in her hands. Late at night, when the house was quiet, she sat in front of her stepmother's old laptop. She had seen the woman typing her password before, twice, and now, slowly, she tried combinations until one finally worked. She was in. Dozens of emails, some boring, some full of sharp, dark words. One caught her breath. It was from a real estate agent. The subject line read, getting rid of sensitive materials. The message mentioned old papers from the row house, and how it was better not to leave anything behind. Lila took screenshots of everything. From that moment, she started recording everything. She used her phone, hidden in her pocket or bag. She recorded her stepmother yelling at her father, calling him useless. She recorded arguments over money, over keeping things quiet, over how to handle the girl. She recorded whispers about a bribe paid years ago, something to do with keeping the will hidden. Even her stepsister played a part. One afternoon, while their father was at work, the girl cornered her in the hallway. She smiled in that fake way and said, "Still wearing that ugly sweater? No wonder Mum says you'll never be anything." Lila didn't respond. She didn't flinch. She just made sure her phone was still recording. Each cruel word, every threat, each lie, it was all saved. Carefully organized, backed up in secret folders. She was building something, step by step. Not just proof, but power. They had spent years hiding the truth, thinking she would never find it. Now she was watching, listening, waiting, and they had no idea. The truth was heavy in her hands, but she wasn't afraid anymore. She knew she couldn't take on powerful people alone, so she searched for someone who could help, someone with a voice loud enough to shake the walls they had built. She found a local podcaster, known for uncovering lies and corruption in families, businesses, even politics. His show was popular. People listened, and once they heard her story, she knew they wouldn't forget. Using a fake email and voice changer app, she reached out. She didn't give her name. She simply said, "I have proof of a stolen inheritance, a hidden will, and years of abuse. Are you interested?" He replied within an hour. She sent everything, the will naming her as the true heir, screenshots of emails about destroying documents, recordings of screaming fights, bribe whispers, and her stepsister's cruel words, every detail carefully labelled and explained. She waited 2 days, barely sleeping. Then the episode dropped. The podcaster didn't hold back. He called it "The Heiress They Tried to Erase." He told the story step by step, using audio clips and emails as proof. He never named her, but he didn't have to. The details were clear enough. Listeners were hooked. Within hours, the episode went viral. People shared it online. News outlets started asking questions. Her stepmother's name trended on local social media for all the wrong reasons. The real estate agent was interviewed. Old neighbours came forward. People started looking into property records, inheritance laws, and missing wills. And then it hit the people closest to her. Her stepmother was called in for questioning by investigators. Her father, who worked at a major company, was suddenly suspended. Later, she heard he'd been fired completely, his name tied to financial lies and stolen money. At home, the silence was thick. No yelling, no taunts, just closed doors and hushed phone calls. The mask was breaking. The life they built on lies was falling apart. And still, they didn't know who had done it. She stayed quiet, said nothing, watched it all from behind calm eyes. Let them wonder. Justice had begun, not in a courtroom, but through speakers, screens, and voices that refused to be silent. The courtroom felt big and cold. She sat quietly in the front row, dressed in second-hand clothes. Her hands were folded in her lap, but they shook just a little. Across the room, her stepmother sat straight and proud, wearing a fancy black dress. Her lawyers were dressed just as sharp, flipping through folders and talking fast. Her father sat beside them, looking nervous but trying to hide it. She didn't have a lawyer like theirs, just the woman who had helped her from the small office, now standing beside her, calm and strong. The judge entered the room, and everyone stood. It was time. The trial started quickly. The judge asked questions, and both sides answered. Her stepmother's lawyers tried to speak with confidence. They said the girl was confused, that the will was fake, that nothing had been stolen. But then her lawyer stood and began to speak. She showed the original will, the one found in the house. She showed the photos, the letter, the emails about disposing of documents. She played the recordings of bribes and shouting matches. She explained how Lila had been taken in, not out of love, but to hide her true identity and steal what belonged to her. For a long time, the courtroom was quiet. Everyone listened carefully. Then the judge leaned forward and said something no one expected. "This will is valid and legal. Catherine Rowe clearly named Lila as her only heir. No other documents were filed after this. The inheritance was taken from her, and that cannot be ignored." Her stepmother's face froze. Her father looked away. The judge continued, firm and clear. "Lila is the rightful heir to Catherine Rowe's estate. She is her daughter. Her inheritance was stolen through lies and silence. The people who did this will not walk away without consequences." The judge ordered her stepmother and father to pay back every dollar they had taken, plus interest. They would also face charges for fraud and hiding legal documents. Everything they had built from stolen money was falling apart. Lila didn't smile, but she felt something lift from her chest. Not joy exactly, but peace. The truth had been hidden for so long, but now it was out for everyone to see. She stood up slowly and walked out of the courtroom, one step at a time. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to shout. She had won just by telling the truth. The house was quiet now. No yelling, no lies, no fake smiles, just peace. She stood at the front door of her mother's old home, now hers. The garden was no longer overgrown, the broken windows fixed, the dust swept away. It had taken time to bring it back to life, but it was worth every hour. She had installed cameras at every corner, changed the locks, and got a new phone number. No one from the old house knew how to find her anymore. That was the way she wanted it. No contact, no more games. The courtroom had given her what was rightfully hers. The judge had spoken, the truth had come out, and the people who had hurt her were forced to face it. They tried to pretend it wasn't their fault, but it didn't matter now. Their power was gone. One day, a message came from her stepsister. It was short, just 3 words. "Can we talk?" She didn't reply. Instead, she posted a simple message online, the same platform where her story had first gone viral. No name, no anger, just a line that said everything. "You don't get to speak to me now." That was it. No more explanations, no more begging. The silence was her answer, and it was louder than anything she could have said. Now, the house smelled like fresh paint and clean air. The pictures on the walls were warm and full of history. In the hallway, one photo stood out. A large portrait of her mother, smiling softly, eyes kind and strong. She stood under it and looked up. For the first time, she felt safe. Not because everything was perfect, but because the lies were gone. The pain was still there, but it wasn't in control anymore. She smiled, not because she had won in court, or because the money was hers now. She smiled because they had lost. All the years of pretending, all the cruelty, all the control. They had nothing left to hold over her. She had found her voice. She had found her truth. And in the silence of her new home, that was more than enough. Do you think Lila did the right thing by cutting off all contact with her step-family? Or should she have given them a chance to explain themselves? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And if you want more powerful stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out.